There we go. So good morning, everybody. An exciting day ahead for sure. So I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of Mike Ignatz, Carrie Lane, and my son Rob, who's with us today. On behalf of all of us at the Benefits Trust, we want to take this opportunity to thank you. We are expecting a lot more people on the call, and they'll be joining as we participate or as we go forward. And this is our fall Zoominar series or Zoomcast series, whatever you want to call it. And we're happy that you're here. You know, in putting this presentation together today and speaking with our guest speaker, Louisa, who we'll introduce in a few moments, I figure we've done, since we started these really in 2021, right after, or 2020, right after COVID kind of started, we started doing CE sessions in this format, and they've been quite successful. I think we've had lots of hundreds, if not thousands of participants actually, but we've done over 50 hours of these since 2020. So we want to thank you for your continued support, because I think they're excellent sessions and excellent ways to, foster conversation, if we would, and learn at the same time. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being in a room full of smart people. So that's, I think, what it's all about. And we're happy to put these on and happy for you to participate. So thank you. We are committed to providing excellent material. So at the end of the session today, you are going to get a very short survey, and we ask you to fill that out and send it back. Tell us how we did, because we want to do it better tomorrow than we did it today. And in addition to that, in that survey, there's a question on what future topics you'd like to see covered, so we can certainly cover those things. Quick reminder, in October, we're going to be talking about creating the sticky client with creative plan design. And in November, towards the end of November, we're also going to be talking about the ins and outs of group travel insurance. And we're going to have a specialist on board, I believe, from Green Shield, that's going to talk to us about the ins and outs of travel insurance as people, have gotten off their sort of summer travel, which we were just talking about, and getting into their more winter travel to escape the snow, even though I go to the snow, but that's another issue. So the session is being recorded today, so let's keep it fair and comfortable for everybody, without a doubt. And let's get started. So I'm just going to share my screen here if I could. There we go, desktop number 2, share. Can everybody see that?
Yep, looks good.
Looks great. Okay, super. So we want to talk about an HR perspective on employee benefits in 2024. I like to put in 2024 because we're always looking forward. 2024 is just around the corner. And it's really current time, but we're really looking forward into what benefits mean, from an HR perspective. And again, we've got our special guest today, Louisa DeJesus, who's with us today, and she's going to be presenting in a few moments, and I will be giving her the appropriate introduction in just a few moments. Oh, hold on a second. Let me just get this right. Our agenda today is quite simple. We want to talk about plans as a recruitment advantage, benefit plans as a recruitment advantage. I don't know about you folks, but that are on the call, all you professional advisors that are on the call, but it's still, I think, a number one issue right now. A lot of employers are looking for more talent. I was talking to a builder friend of mine actually this morning, and he goes, "I wish I had 10 more people." And that was his comment in the text that he sent me, because they're booking projects into 2025, the end of 2025. And he says, "I wish we could have 10 more people or more." We want to talk about how performance management can directly be tied to benefits. We want to talk about best practices around benefits and absence management. Absence management is a big thing, and how benefits tie in with that. We want to talk about corporate culture and benefit plan design and how they must align. And of course, we want to make this an interactive session, so questions and answers and discussions. If you got a question or thought or idea, please put up your emoji hand in your slide or in your picture, and we'll get to you. Or just jump right in. But we want to sort of keep on topic here, but we're going to have some time for some questions and answers afterwards as well. And we're going to finish right at 10 o'clock sharp. So we need you to stick around to get your CE credit, as well as the survey. But if you want to stick around a few minutes after, generally speaking, we have some less formal conversations and some questions and answers and discussions. So feel free to stick around for a couple of minutes afterwards. But it's always, I think, important to talk about a point of view. And, when we're putting these presentations together over the last little while, some things that just astounded me. And I know, Jay, you're joining us from the north end of Vancouver Island. It's quite a distance away, but, in Ontario, in Southern Ontario specifically, in the whole province of Ontario, there's 449,770 businesses. And we look at the number of businesses that have less than 100 full-time employees, there's 440,000 of those businesses. And that's really where our focus is looking at that smaller end of the marketplace, because quite frankly, that's what Canada is. It's made up of a whole pile of small businesses, and 440,000 businesses with less than 100 full-time employees. In my opinion, that's where the money is, just because there's so many of them. One of the things that's really exciting is you look in Toronto, and you look at the cranes. You look at the cranes in Toronto. There's still a lot of activity going on. As a matter of fact, there are more cranes in use in Southern Ontario right now, and really the GTA, than in most US cities combined. And we're talking about New York, LA, Chicago. There are more cranes in Ontario right now, moving things, than those cities combined. Ontario is happening. It's alive. It's open for business. It's fantastic. And as I mentioned, this is where the money is, without a doubt. Some other considerations is we want to look at, our discussion today, and how you as professional advisors can provide value-added service at a profit. And with endless prospects, like literally endless prospects, it's through this lens that we want to explore this discussion today, is how do we provide value-added service at a profit and continue to provide that value-added service at a profit. We're going to talk about the difference between a client and a client and a customer, but it's really providing that value-added service at a profit. And when we're thinking about employers that have less than 100 employees, the reason why I love working in this market space, and I have for many, many years, or this market size, this market segment, if you would, is you get to yes or no really quickly. You can have time wasters in there, but you can get to yes or no really quickly. And the reason why you can get to yes or no really quickly is because, generally speaking, when you're dealing with benefits, you're dealing with the decision maker. Not always the case, but often the case. And the decision makers don't like to waste time either. Especially if they're a profitable business. They really don't want to waste time. They want to look at increasing their profits. So you get to yes or no quickly. You're, generally speaking, dealing with the decision maker. And as we all know, yes pays you, no teaches you, and maybe kills you, right? So that's why I like working in this space, because I've worked in the larger space from time to time over the years. And you know what? It's just such a pain in the ass, because it takes months and months and months. The sales cycle is huge. And in this space, less than 100 employees, you can, generally speaking, get there really quickly. Little bit of a disclaimer. We are a full service, the Benefits Trust. We're a full service third-party benefit administration company. We work with advisors like you. As well as that, we started on January 1st, 1994. So we've been around for a while. We're coming up to our 30th anniversary. Our target market list is working with advisors like you that have clients with less than 100 employees. Since we're putting this on, these are our views and our opinions. You can, I love to talk to smart advisors that disagree. But these are our views and our opinions at this time. In this space, I've had easily over 10,000 sales meetings over my career, so I'm coming with some experience. This is not a commercial for the Benefits Trust. We want you to learn something here, and hopefully, you get an idea that you can use in your practice. But one of the things that's kind of interesting to sort of keep in the back of your mind with Louise's comments and what we're talking about today is, in the last 5 years, we've had more conversations about healthcare spending accounts than we had in the previous 20 years combined. And I think that's just astonishing. It's just amazing. And when we look at this marketplace with less than 100 employees, and you look at the conversations that we're having and the benefit costs and how they've been increasing over that 30-year span since we've been in business, employers are looking to you as professionals for advice. They need our help. It's as simple as that. They need our help. And it's interesting with AI. I was looking at some articles this morning and watching the news this morning about AI, and AI is fantastic, and the internet's fantastic. They've got a ton of information on the internet, but what they don't have is the right questions. And I think it's all about having the right questions and creating discussion around some of these things that are changing. And this just sort of piqued my thought when I was putting this presentation together, that we've had more discussions about healthcare spending accounts in the last 5 years than we've had in the previous 20 years. So let's talk about HR and small business in Ontario. And I hate to use the word small business. I really do, because it really bothers me, because, at the Benefits Trust, we're considered a small business compared to, the Bank of Montreal. And the Bank of Montreal, looks at us as a small business, but I like to look at us as a business with few employees that is profitable. Right? It's not necessarily small, but but anyways, the fact of the matter is, the majority of businesses that have less than 100 full-time employees, or certainly have less than 50 employees, where a lot of us work, they don't have an HR specialist. They don't have an HR department. The HR responsibility often falls on, one person. And, we're using this example of executive set policies or owner set policy. Managers may enforce and execute the policies, and admin may, facilitate these policies through payroll and scheduling and vacation approval, etc. But it's often maybe one, maybe two people that really, the HR falls on their shoulders. And when you think about that, when they're wearing 9 different hats, because they're in charge of sales, they're in charge of the future company direction, they're in charge of setting HR policies and so on. One of the things that we're finding is, in most cases, HR is often reactive as opposed to proactive. Whereas, you're looking at the Bank of Montreal, for example, with, 50,000 employees or whatever the number is. They've got an HR department that's probably very robust, and they've got certain policies in place and onboarding and all sorts of different things. And it's proactive as opposed to reactive, where smaller employers, HR is often reactive in a lot of cases. And it's interesting. And when we're talking about recruitment, for example, when we're looking at smaller employers, and especially if they're attracting a talent from larger employers, it's quite a culture shock for some of these folks. As well as that, assets, an asset and a liability, employees, following HR policies and employment law are vital to a company's success. Like it's absolutely vital for a company's success to follow employment law and HR policies. A lot of companies have an HR policy that is quite simple. We just follow employment law. That's their HR policy, right? But the employees are such an important asset in any business. They help run the day-to-day business. They make the business money. I was away for 2 weeks this past week, got back on Sunday night. And, it was interesting. We didn't shut down because I was away. Matter of fact, we got new clients when I was away, which was awesome. We paid claims. We did all the things that we were supposed to do. And it's because of the employees. It's because of, Carrie that's on the call today, and Rob and Mike and the, 27 other employees we have. And they're an important asset, one of the most important assets in the business, if not the most important. But they're also they can also be the biggest liability. Mistakes can cripple a business's reputation. You just look what's happened in the Canadian government in the last week or so, right? And how, a simple mistake, maybe not a simple mistake, but a mistake can cripple the reputation on a worldwide basis. And we don't need to go there because we've all watched the news, but mistakes can cripple a business's reputation instantly. They can also cost hundreds of thousands of dollars very quickly because of something simple that somebody or the owner has done. They can also be very time consuming. Incredibly time consuming, and they take a huge amount of mental bandwidth. In 30 years of having employees, we've had two situations where disgruntled employees have taken action against us, and both have resulted in nothing, because we've really done nothing wrong. But it just takes up an awful lot of mental bandwidth. So it's amazing how the liability can come forward. And often you think you're taking 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. So it's important to have policies, but it's to protect the business and the business certainly going forward. So when you don't have the luxury of an HR company, an HR employee or an HR specialist, HR policies and employment law can be cumbersome and time consuming to properly execute. That's a fact of life. As well as that, a lot of employers don't understand. They know that there's employment law out there, but they certainly don't understand the nuances of it. So it becomes, even more of a liability. And one of the things that we've noticed, that hiring an HR specialist from time to time can save money. Excuse me, pardon me. So hiring an HR specialist, see, that was just right at the exact time. We're just, building you up, Louisa, and then I sneezed right. Yeah. So hiring an HR specialist can not only save time and money, but it can save your reputation. And it can save considerable problems that might occur down the road that we just spoke about. But the reason why I like the idea of hiring an HR specialist instead of hiring an HR employee is, first of all, you only need them potentially from time to time, especially when you're a smaller employer, but you're not just hiring one person, you're hiring a company. So it's similar to bringing an entire department. As I often like to say to end user clients when I'm dealing with advisors, I say, we're your benefits department. If Jay, you and I have a client together, you've used us as the benefits trust, we say, hey, we are your benefits department. And your benefits department is, Jay's office, and it's our office. It's just a telephone call away instead of being down the hall. And the same thing with an HR specialist. You're not just hiring one person that has to know everything. You're hiring a department or a bunch of people that have different specialties within the HR realm. So it's my pleasure to introduce our guest presenter this morning. And that is my good friend, Louisa DeJesus, and she is the founder and president of LD Human Resources. 20 years experience in HR. Full disclosure, Louisa and I met many years ago. She was in HR or part of an HR department, or a kind of an HR department, if you would, at a she was that was 20 years ago. She was just out of high school, I think. She was a certified, or Louisa's a certified human resource professional and holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Toronto. Graduated with honors and attaining her human resource certificate in 2010, human resource management certificate. A lot of expertise in all sorts of different types of business. So she's not just dealing with retail or not just dealing with high tech. It's a breadth of experience in all sorts of different businesses, much like a lot of your practices, where you're dealing with all kinds of companies from, apple orchard to zoos. So it's a wide breadth of information. And the reason why I like Louisa so much is she's just committed to providing, a high level of service with business objectives and delivering results within changing environments. So everybody, please welcome Louisa, who's going to take over and talk about some of these things right now. And Louisa, I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now so you can share yours.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. Bear with me.
There we go.
There we go. Let's see if I can move this over here. So thank you all for your patience as I'm getting my screen up here, and thank you, Rob, for the kind and overwhelming introduction. I hope I can meet everyone's expectations today. As Rob mentioned, we are going to be talking about your area of expertise and my area of expertise, and how really HR and benefits really must align. And as experts in the field of benefits, I'm sure you already appreciate that. Rob did share, our people are really our most valuable asset. They set us apart from our competition. And as he had mentioned, he'd been away, and the show must go on. And really, that's a testament to your team. So it's so important to ensure that our teams within our small businesses and our clients are truly equipped and enjoying the most of their day, which they spend at work. And that's really the culture and the things that we are supporting them through with our clients with benefits and HR. So I'll share a little bit about myself today. Rob did an excellent introduction, but I'll tell you a little bit about myself, my team, sort of what we do. And he also alluded to the agenda. So really, we're going to talk about sort of how do we really need to up our employee benefits, or target the talent in today's world so that we have the right people at our organization. And then in terms of performance and seeing it really hit the bottom line for our clients, it really is an opportunity for us to do so through a benefits offering, as well as maximizing sort of the potential, or minimizing risk, I should say, in terms of absence management within an organization. A lot of people will call in sick or have I think, through COVID, there's been quite a bit that we've learned. So with that, people are really aligning themselves. And then we talk about really culture, right? And that really sets us apart. That'll really drive people to come back to work, and benefits truly align with that as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that before we get into our Q&A. So as Rob mentioned, I have been in HR for probably over 25 years now. I started my first year of university not knowing what HR was, and says, oh, I kind of like this. And so I continued through university and targeted my studies postgraduate in HR as an HR professional, certified human resources professional, certified human resources leader. And like yourselves, I have these PD courses, which I find entertaining, as well as most enlightening, because you learn about so many different trends and current events that keeps you relevant to be able to really service and support your clients. And so our team of HR professionals, we're about 8. We really are that interim fractional solution. And sometimes we're a long-term solution, depending on the size of the client, right? We have clients that have 3, 10 employees, 50 employees, 150 employees. So, once they get to a certain point, really having a permanent HR full-time person is ideal. However, as Robert mentioned, we would provide 3 different levels of expertise as an HR department within our services. So, we have that strategic hat, we have that we'll go to day-to-day, operational hat, and then we also have some team members in our group that are more junior and kind of help with the administrative, very important critical piece to keep us organized and moving forward as well. So you get 3 in 1, I suppose we can say, when you deal with our team. And we don't discriminate in terms of what types of industries we support, because HR is HR. We really just tailor and customize to that environment and to the culture of the company. And so we're in various industries: construction, manufacturing, retail, professional services, travel, tech. It really, the list goes on, union, non-union. So we're able to really support whether it's a short or long-term objective. So I guess that's the other thing when it comes to businesses that are growing. They don't necessarily need HR full-time, and they have various budgets. And so we can appreciate that as a small business ourselves, and do provide various solutions. So if someone needs to call us one-off on something, we can accommodate, we can definitely support. There's a project, we can help with the project. So sometimes we help HR departments. We're that extra set of hands on deck. And then, other, which are our most popular option is, as Rob mentioned, with that HR department, we're just, here's your plan. We're going to support as if we are, part of your team once a week, twice a week, come into the office or work remote, depending on what the circumstances and needs are. So it's a little bit about ourselves. I've been in business for 6 years, almost 7, not quite the 30, is it, Rob, that you'll be celebrating this year coming? So, but, looking up to Rob, and hopefully we'll achieve that in due time. So I really want you to get value today around how do we really use the benefits portion, or that expertise, to really attract top talent. How do we tailor this to each different culture and business need of your clients? And how do we get our clients to really understand the connection and the value overall for their organizational success when it comes to benefits aligning for their people?
Hey,
So I'm
Louise,
gonna
I think it's not only just top talent, I think it's talent.
Talent in general, 100%. So I'm going to ask you guys a whole bunch of questions. It's going to be a very interactive session. Please do not hesitate to unmute or use the chat box, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I'm going to preface it to say there's no wrong answer, right? There's no right or wrong. It's really whatever your experience has been. You are the experts here. So I really look forward to your insights and your participation as we go through this session today, and hope you'll find it valuable in terms of discussion that we'll learn from our peers as well. So the first question I'm going to ask you, just to kind of jump into the first section, is, imagine that your client has, so this is about your client. As an advisor, what would you recommend really to your clients in terms of attracting talent that they need. So if you think that, they're looking for, let's say that you're a job seeker of one of your clients, what would the benefit gem be that you would choose or you would recommend? Again, what questions maybe, or what would you suggest for them to implement in terms of that benefit gem to attract that top talent within their industry?
Anybody?
Again, feel free to use the chat, just jump in, take yourself off mute.
Please up.
So,
100% employer paid
100%.
okay, excellent.
outside disability.
Yep.
Never make them pay, because they're going to look at it as their money out of their pocket.
Okay.
100%, I agree with that. Thank you, Anthony.
I'm all about disability protection.
Good. And does it matter what industry? Would you all suggest that would apply to really any client?
The disability?
A disability or even 100% paid?
For disability, I would say any industry.
Yeah, good. Especially today, right? I don't know about you, but you hear so much about younger people just having so many long, like severe illnesses, even. It's such a...
The one problem with that is young people don't ever want to pay for the disability
That's right.
because they all believe they're invincible and nothing's going to happen to them. And they want every penny in their pocket on payday that they can get.
Yeah.
So if you say we're forcing you to take disability, they may look at that and say, yeah, you know what, I'm out of here.
Yep. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. But, there's ways around that when we talk about creative accounting, because, there's value to be able to have a taxable benefit at full pop if you ever needed the benefit, as you know. But there are other ways around that when we talk about having 100% employer paid benefits, right? I love that you brought that up, Jeff, because we're going to talk about a case study later that actually involves that specific situation. Okay, so thank you for that.
I've seen
as a job seeker, what would matter to me in terms of priority of benefits is what my family's position needs were, whether it's dental, whether it's prescription, whether it's paramed services. So it would be paramount to me as a job seeker to find out what would benefit my family and their needs specific.
Good. So we had 100% employer paid, disability benefits, and family extension to benefits to family members, and having insight as to what that is. So I like that you bring that up. Sorry, I like to bring that up, John, because a lot of the times as employers, we'll say you have benefits, we don't really get into what that is, and really job seekers need to understand the full offer, especially in today's day, whether they're going to accept it or not, because the benefits could be a deal breaker, right, in terms of what's involved. So thank you for that. Someone else had something else to say.
And I've been noticing healthcare spending accounts are becoming increasingly popular, perhaps just a healthcare spending account or more of a hybrid plan, because everybody's individual needs are very different. So especially with the younger generation, if they get that very defined booklet, they open it up and go, great, I might use a bit of dental, perhaps some prescription drugs, and then everything else I'm going to max out very quickly. But with the healthcare spending account, I've been even talking to friends about benefits. I had a friend tear his Achilles tendon, and he had a very defined plan, but his partner had a health spending account, so he got to really utilize the health spending account for his extensive physio. So
yeah, it's a very good point. Thanks, Rob, because a lot of the times these things have caps, right?
I've seen employees asking for benefits to be covered right away rather than wait for 3 months.
Yes, that's a good one. Waiving that waiting period.
Yes,
Absolutely. So
Thank
thank you all for your input. These are all excellent excellent thoughts in terms of what is that benefit gem. So making sure that we have
track them.
100%,
Yeah,
right? Make sure that see if there's opportunities. Sorry, go ahead.
sure.
I'm involved with an association and we're hiring people. And one of the first questions they come in now and ask, never mind how much money am I going to get, what are my benefits? That's the first question they want to know.
Yeah, that coincides with a study that our friends at PBD did, and they said 75% of new hires will not join a company, or more than that, will not join a company without benefits, period. They won't even consider it. So, all right, Louisa, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Trudy here, Trudy Sabri also said that many are asking for wellness programs. Hey, it's about balance. It's about knowing sort of, well-being in general. So do we have, support such as mental health or best doctors, those types of things. So understanding the details and again, as a job seeker, what the benefits are and when they're available and how much we're paying for them. These are very key items. So thank you for all sharing. Essentially, when we talk about, elevating that talent to get them in the door with benefits, you all here as advisors have a really key role in terms of helping your clients attract that top talent, tailoring it, ensuring that there's a comprehensive benefits spectrum, that there's really that competitive edge in terms of what we're offering and being innovative. We talked about what's included in wellness. I was at a client yesterday and they have a personal spending account, and the personal spending account, I was surprised, but hey, it's therapeutic for some of their staff to get tattoos. It was covered. I thought, wow, that's an interesting one. And so it's not necessarily a healthcare spending account, which is also a very important one to have flexibility, but depending on the generation of your team members, they're all going to have various needs. So as you can appreciate, today's day is a very different candidate pool than pre-COVID. It is truly a mix, I would say, out there. It's a tough market in terms of for candidates to find the right job and for employers to find the right candidates in terms of fit. Not everybody is actively looking for work at the same level. Many have changed careers. So the talent and the technical expertise can be limited in specific industries, right? And people have had, I use this in one of our other sessions, people have had really kind of coming out of COVID, I call it COVID clarity, right? They really want to align their own personal morals and culture and beliefs with those of their employer and where they're working. So your benefits should really speak volumes and also align to that. So, it's really hard for small businesses or medium-sized businesses to really attract talent because they don't have that brand awareness like the bigger company and the corporate environments do. So really having that total rewards offering, thinking about the various opportunities to present to candidates in there and highlighting that and what the details are is going to be key to getting that talent in the door. When we talked about some of the studies, Robert had mentioned one. Well, Deloitte did a 2020 millennial survey, and it really said that benefits that indicate or that have work-life balance were really amongst the top factors to influence millennials' job decision, whether they're going to take that job or not, right? So really, really important. All right, I'm going to get into the next session and the next section, and really it's about performance here. So we have our team with our client, they're a rocket. And so what is the benefit booster that you would suggest? How do we get their team from this level of performance to kind of get into that next level and that height in terms of performance? What would you suggest would change behaviors? Anyone?
So in my experience, it's not about one benefit that'll change their behavior. It's about helping them understand what their benefits actually contain. Most people have no clue what's inside a benefit plan. So if you just teach them about, depending on your needs, here are all the things you have, that alone can increase absentee or increase the amount of attendance that people have at work and decrease the presenteeism that goes along with that.
Very good. So having them sort of knowledge is power, right? A lot of people don't really understand. So communication, that's a key thing with a lot of environments. There's always an opportunity to improve communication for sure. Thank you for that, Jay. Anyone else? Any other sort of think about clients that you had and you did a little tweak, you're giving some advice and they were able to see the value within their team immediately or within due time because of the benefits. Yes, Robert.
One of the things that we've done is we've put with a lot of our clients, through the advisor network that we deal with, is changing the mental health component from a traditional paramedical service into its own silo, and expanding the definition of mental health. Because what it's done is it's you're putting the mental health in its own silo, broadening the definition, communicating that to all of the employees, and not a single employee can go, that sucks.
Yeah,
They look at the
100%.
news, they read all the articles that are out there, and they go, hey, this is a good thing. I may not be using it, but hey, the company cares about my mental health. And I think it was very recently, it was either TELUS or Chorus or
Chorus Entertainment. Actually, I have one of my old colleagues that works there. They removed the cap on mental health
you were mentioning.
support.
Yeah. So mental health is a big component.
100%. Thank you for that. So when we talk about, performance, there's really a huge opportunity in terms of aligning performance behaviors with our benefits nexus, right? When you think about, if there's an employee, I think Rob, you mentioned it, he had additional healthcare spending account and could, had an injury with Achilles tendon. Well, if there was no paramedical services, that person's going to have chronic pain coming to work every day. They're not going to be the happiest camper. They're not going to want to come to work. They may come in and just show up and not do the work. So that impact is going to have a negative impact on everybody else in the team. Everyone else's morale is going to be upset and down because they see their colleague in pain. That person is not pulling their weight, so they're taking on that extra load. So that's not a productive work environment, and it actually can create toxicity. But on the flip side, when we talk about a positive ripple effect, you have someone that's getting your mental health support, there's no caps, or that's got that paramedical service, or just in general is has a wellness balance because there's a healthcare spending account, or a spending account, like I told you, of that, that tattoo that got covered, or that they have a walking sort of club, or whatever other benefits you can think about from a well-being perspective. Well, they're going to bring that positive outlook and that environment to that environment. Their attitude is going to be positive. It's going to be infectious to everybody else and contagious, where you're going to see that definitely hit your bottom line. When people are happy, they're definitely motivated to do good work, and they're in a great space. I always talk about, leadership in general definitely impacts that, but so does benefits. If we don't have those pieces in place to support our employees and have those resources, then they're not going to be able to bring their best self to work, right? Some of the things as well is even just a simple EAP program, right? It's very low cost, but if there's an opportunity to kind of defer someone to an expert, hey, that's an easy solution, right? So there's definitely opportunities in terms of performance and benefits to see that positive impact to the bottom line, and in general in the environment. So a little case study, we talked a little bit about this earlier. Well, I'll give you an example. So we had one of my clients had a long service employee. They did not have LTD in place. They did not have short-term disability as well in place, or CI, no critical illness. Okay, and so they initially had surveyed their staff. There was a mixed generation, young and older generation. And again, the team, they didn't want it. They didn't want to pay the extra premiums for it, and so there was no LTD. So they had this long service, loyal, dedicated employee who unfortunately then gets cancer. And so as business owners, they were torn. This woman was the heart of the department, of the organization in that sense. And so they were really in a pickle in terms of how to support her. Okay. They ended up just sort of paying and then being stuck to set precedent, and really they were torn, as I mentioned. So if I were to share, I'm sharing with you this case. What would you do and recommend to them to really improve that benefits strategy? Because now they're in this position, but hindsight's 2020. If you had the opportunity to give them that improvement in their benefits strategy, what would it be?
I'd be implementing mandatory long-term disability as soon as possible.
Right.
Because they've set a precedent. By paying that person, they've set a precedent. Whether that was confidential or not, it doesn't matter. They've set a precedent.
Confidential is confidential until people talk. Right? Jay, you had your hand up.
No one wants to pay for disability until one of their colleagues goes down, and then they get it. So yeah, you know what? Certain things, of course, it always depends on the culture of the company that you're working with, but certain things the company needs to really be paternal about it and say, you know what? We're going to take care of you. You might not want this, but you're getting it. And that's part of what I said earlier about educating the employees. People don't understand the reasons or the consequences until life happens.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so, yeah, like critical illness and disability and dependent life insurance, all super, super important.
And that's why they're there as insurance. They're there in the event of, so, that you don't have to feel torn and that you can put your head down at night as a business owner. So as an advisor, to share those examples in real life situations with your clients is going to be key to help influence them to make the right decisions in terms of setting up their benefit strategy and their plans from the beginning. Even something like virtual doctor or best doctors support is also, a great opportunity to complement something in this kind of circumstance. But for sure, critical illness, dependent life, LTD is going to be key, right? So I share that
Absolutely.
I share that example because absence management really has a huge impact, not just for the individual that, is down in terms of productivity, but it also has a huge impact in the team. As I mentioned to you, this woman was the heart of the team. Everyone's feeling down. They're not productive. They're worried about her, right? So you'll really see that in production and hitting your bottom line in terms of, that negative impact. And then we talk about absence management in general. It's so important to have effective return to work plan. I had another client that they had an employee that they shared that, he had a heart attack over the weekend. And so I said, okay, well, on Monday, we're going to call him. We're going to speak to his doctor and understand what accommodations we need. Well, I called Monday and spoke to them and they're, oh no, he's here. He's at work. He's fine. I said, oh, no. So I reached out to the employee and explained to him, we need to make sure that you're set up for success, in the event of that. And really, he had a language barrier. So he didn't advocate for himself. And this is very common amongst our culture here in Canada. It varies, right? People don't want to sort of push back to the doctors or ask the questions. They're just unsure. Unfortunately, we're just ignorant to this type of stuff. So we're here to support employees too, right? And it ended up this employee, he needed to make sure he was getting up and walking around, and he was doing all kinds of different things. So if we hadn't gone through that process, it could have been a very huge liability for the employer and then impact as well. So it could be really return to work failure when we come to those types of things. But when we talk about people being off from work, like I mentioned earlier, we've got other people within the team that are taking on that workload, and they are not necessarily happy about taking on the work of their colleagues, and it's taking away from the productivity that they have. It causes strain, and then you get this presenteeism that we talked about, where they're just coming into work. So not having the proper supports in place, especially from absence management, can truly impact negatively to the entire group. So last question I will ask you is, you are benefits wizards, okay? So if we're going to boost engagement in general, what pass would you spell? So think of a client where you actually did this. You suggested to them, a benefits spell, if you will, that really then impacted, and we saw optimum performance at the organization.
I think the big thing I did with the group was we got involved in there was a lot of what I call a water cooler conversation about benefits. And somebody would come in and say, my husband's got a benefit package and they get this. And then you find out they work for a company with 10,000 employees. and that sort of thing is like a poison that seeps through the entire process. But we came up with, I guess, some of the bigger companies offered, which is sort of like a total reward statement, where we
Yes.
would actually put down what the value of the benefits are. And you don't have to it doesn't have to be that sophisticated, but just, we actually even personalized it to say, if you had $100,000 of life insurance, the company was paying, $57 a month for that sort of thing. So you gave them a complete statement of all their benefits and what the company was paying. And most people haven't the faintest clue what's being paid for benefits.
That's great. I mean, if they had to go out individually and find a plan on their own, they would then have a really solid reality in terms of, what the value is there. So again, clarity, communication, sharing with them the value, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of being in tune in terms of the word on the street, right? If you're hearing undertones and whispers, it's so important to address them and talk about it, because it's better that you get ahead of the game and be proactive, as Robert was saying earlier. Jay, you had a question or an opportunity that you can share with us?
Yeah, no, just to your question, what spell would I cast? Well, not so much a spell, but best idea I've heard, and again, it goes back to my education statement earlier, is having a benefits champion. And a benefits champion is not somebody on the management team, it's an employee who loves the benefit program, and having that person lead monthly sessions about the different things in the benefit plan. They can work with the owners of the business or the advisor or HR, but the big magic potion, as far as my experience tells me, is all about that education and making it a real active thing, sharing good stories and making the benefits part of the culture.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right there, right? Culture is really the key. We have to ensure that they're aligned. So if you have a benefit, if you don't have benefits and your business's benefits, well, that doesn't align with who you are, right? You want to ensure that you're being inclusive. So one of the comments that we had was, well, the benefit statement kind of upset the younger generation because they just want that money in their pocket. But really, it's about educating. So I had a client that we every month or every quarter, sorry, their town hall, we just sort of told them, hey, did you know? Did you know that you have these mental health benefits? Did you know that we have an EAP program? Did you know that we cover up to XYZ? And that's a little bit of a double-edged sword. I think some of the employers will see that in the sense, well, I don't want to tell them too much because they're yield the benefits, my rates are going to go higher. But the reality is, if you're not educating your staff and communicating, well, the worst case scenario is that they're going to leave and find it somewhere else. Because as we know, benefits are evolving. People are looking more and more to that as a total reward strategy and value when they join an organization. It's not just about I'm getting X amount of dollars, because it's about the experience. We spend more time at work. Like I said, people have had this clarity that the overall benefits is really a conduit for that culture. And they want to share the values, attitudes, goals, making sure there's really tangible offerings. Yes, Jay.
I just want to comment on your comment about people worried about their cost of benefits increasing. And it was part of what I was thinking when I was just talking. And we hear that all the time. And people are always worried about their cost of benefits. If you make your benefits part of culture, no business owner should ever spend a penny that doesn't make them more than a penny.
Exactly.
And same thing with the benefits. If you make them part of the culture, the awareness should be that your cost of insurance will go up. Your productivity should go up more than the cost of the benefits.
100%. You're a partner with them in terms of making sure that they get the return on their investment. They'll get a threefold,
this is an
fourfold,
investment.
right?
Whoops. Yeah,
Absolutely.
this is an investment. It's not a line item on a spreadsheet. It's an investment meant to enhance their bottom line.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Well, on that note, that is all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I sure did. And definitely a lot of great examples that you all participated and shared with me. Thank you so much. Any questions, I will turn it over to Robert. And I think he's got a few final pieces to share before we get to the real Q&A. But if there's any questions now, please feel free to let us know.
Louisa, thank you very much. If you could stop sharing your screen for a moment, then I'll go back to mine.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Share. You can all see that, which is awesome. So
Rob, that's actually the wrong one. You got to share the other screen.
what do you mean?
You're showing the presenter view one, so there should be a full screen one that you can share.
Okay, hold on a
So
second.
just
right.
stop sharing for a sec.
No, that's the I'm sharing this one right here. Okay, let me get this right. That one, there we go.
Great.
So thank you very much, Louisa. We really appreciate your time, and we're going to come back to you in a few moments here, right? But, as I was mentioning at the top, how do we add value as an advisor? And clients look at us, or good clients or great clients look at you as an advisor, as a partner. They look at you as a partner in their business. As I mentioned, we're the benefits department, and we're not down the hall, we're, down the road, so to speak. But good clients and great clients look at you as partners. And they often think that you have all the answers to every question. And I think it's important that we know what our boundaries are as benefit advisors and stay inside our scope of practice and stay in your lane. And that's why I wanted to introduce you to Louisa and her scope of practice, because often they're similar or parallel, but they're really a little bit different. And we want to avoid those $100,000 plus mistakes. And it's great to have an expert in your tool belt, so to speak. So your client, if they're looking for this type of service, doesn't have to necessarily start from scratch. And a couple of things that came out of the discussion that I took notes of is, especially during the recruitment thing, it's where we can add value is highlighting clients' benefit plan in English. I've often said in my past life or my past presentations that we're translators. We translate insurances into English. Well, what about a really dynamic document that we would help the client create, where they have a new recruit that says, instead of saying to the new recruit, we have a benefit plan, we say, hey, we have this awesome benefit plan, and here's a one-pager that highlights what this does. And it's not $25,000 of life insurance or $100,000 of life insurance. Let's talk about what it does, what that life insurance does and how it protects you. For example, the other thing is, on the total reward statements, one of the things that we put on our renewals, every single one of our renewals, is the average cost per employee. The average cost per employee. So we say, hey, a cost of a benefit plan, forget about whether they're single or family. You're saying the cost of a benefit plan is $4,275.18, right? Well, you share that with somebody, and share that with somebody when they're recruiting. You're saying, hey, the cost of this benefit plan on average is $4,000. That's that's $2 an hour extra. So it makes them feel good about using that information, or using that information as a recruitment tool. It makes the makes the employee feel that much better about making that decision for the long term, versus going to a company that says, hey, here's your benefit plan, and they throw a book at you. Right. So it's using this information where we can add value. Customer versus client. It's like I said, you walk into the local store and you buy a loaf of bread and a carton of milk, for example, you're a customer, right? But your clients want to look at your clients as partners, and they want to look at you as partners as well. And that's really what a client is. And you need to add value in as many ways as possible. And talking about HR strategy is another added value. Talk about it enough so you can bring in an expert, because it shows that you are an expert as well. Because you don't have a lawyer talking about accounting. They might talk about it a tiny bit, but then they say, okay, this is well beyond my scope, and we need to bring in, the tax accountant. Don't fly by the seat of your pants. Have a full tool belt of resources available to help you, to utilize, so you can recommend to your clients when they need some help. Like it's interesting. I've often had discussions with a lawyer or with an accountant about something, and then they'll say, hey, you know what, we need to bring in the expert, and I'm going to bring in my, I want to introduce you to my buddy Nigel here, and he's going to help you out with this particular problem. Fantastic, right? And the other thing, as I like to say, is don't search for the lowest price to add value. It's not about the lowest price. It's about finding the right combination. One of the things that I really like about Louisa is she's an expert in HR in the market that the majority of us are dealing in. She's not dealing with IBM or Air Canada. Louisa's dealing with ABC Manufacturing with 12 employees. She knows how to speak to those particular owners, right? And that's what I like about it. It's bringing in the professional to add value. And that, when you bring in a professional, I'm not necessarily saying Louisa, I'm just showing you that she's a terrific person, right? You've got to make your own decisions, but it's about adding value and a great deal of value, and be proactive as opposed to reactive. HR, as I mentioned off the top, is often reactive, and we need to make it, I think, a bit more proactive, and that's how you can add some value. Tax accounting and reporting considerations, make sure you understand the tax rules. Those are table stakes, without a doubt. You got to understand those things back and forth, right? It's as simple as that. If you don't, or somebody questions you on it and you don't have the answers, you're going to stand there flat-footed and be in trouble. HR services, our HR specialist services are tax deductible business expenses. The thing that I like about the HR service that Louise is bringing to the table is she's bringing this whole department to the table, but she's not an employee. You can fire her at any time, or you can use her for fractional or to answer certain questions, or people like Louise, again, to answer certain questions. You're not entering into necessarily a long-term relationship. We've been using the services of a marketing company for many years now. And the best part about it is, we pay them like we would pay a salary, but we're getting a huge department of marketing experts. But we can terminate that relationship with 30 days notice at any time, just like a client can terminate your relationship with 30 days. So there's no, continuing salary, etc. Monthly reporting. It's great from a benefit perspective as well as an HR perspective. Annual renewals, as I mentioned in our annual renewals, one of the things that we do is provide that cost per person. You can use that in many different ways. I just, it came to really light right now using it as a recruiting tool, right? Hey, this is $2 an hour. If you're hiring somebody on an hourly basis, you're going to pay them $25 an hour. It's really like paying them $27 an hour. Management summaries are great to, just great reporting considerations. Just a summary of our meeting today, a summary of this, a summary of that is great. The other thing is I like to say is be interested and be interesting. We want to add value and we want to report back. Be interested and be interesting. And the last thing is eliminating surprises. One of the things that you do a lot of, and especially communicating, on a monthly basis or before an annual report, it's about eliminating surprises. And HR, when you look at it from a proactive standpoint, it eliminates surprises. It can often eliminate surprises. So just a couple of schools of thought there. We've spent an hour together, folks. Thank you very much. We talked about benefits and recruitment. We talked about compensation-based benefits. We talked about benefits and absence management. Now they must align. Add value by recommending HR specialists, even if you pay for the first meeting. You're bringing someone in and you pay for that first meeting. It adds a great deal of value, and it can come back and pay for. You can have that paid in many, many ways. Be proactive, not reactive. And benefits must be consistent with corporate culture. You've got this great company and they've got this huge buzz going in their industry and the huge buzz going in the community, and they're a top employer, but they got a crappy benefit plan. There's an opportunity, right? And even if it might be a good benefit plan, it's communicated poorly, to Jay's point. If it's not communicated effectively, it's a crappy plan. So you've got an opportunity to jump in and get an AOR, because you can help them in a proactive way get more value out of their benefit program. So to match with their and be consistent with their corporate culture. So as I mentioned, we're going to stop at 11 o'clock, but we're going to continue. If you want to stick around, we thank you very much. But it's the time has come for us to end. So let's first of all, big round of applause for Louisa for joining us today. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated, Louisa. Thank you. And if you could stick around for a few minutes, there might be some questions. We're going to send you a CE credit for participating today. We're going to send you a short survey. Please fill it out. Benefits Trust has been around for 30 years. We're open for business, and we thank you for doing business together, for your continued support. And if we're not doing business together, we have some inventory left on the shelves for 2023 we want to get rid of. So please, we're open for business. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop recording. And I'm going to stop sharing right now, or sharing my screen, but I'm going to stop recording, and please stick around. I know Jay has his hand up, or had his hand up.
No, that was the applaud thing.
That was the applaud. Perfect. Thank you. So again, thank you for joining, wishing you good selling, and have a terrific day, okay?